Welcome to ReConnected. This is where we listen to stories from spinal cord tumor survivors. We aim to provide connection between survivors by telling our stories. Our purpose is to increase awareness about what life is like after being diagnosed with an intramedullary spinal cord tumor. Because our diagnosis is so rare, it's hard to find information from the patient's perspective. At ReConnected, we talk with people living with the diagnosis and surviving the surgery. My name is Dawn Standera, and I am a survivor of a C1, C2 intramedullary ependymoma. That is spinal cord tumor lingo for a tumor inside my spinal cord at the tip top of my spine. And today we get to hear Merv's story. Welcome, Merv.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. So when were you diagnosed and where was your tumor?
I was diagnosed September 27th, 2018. So about maybe 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
And
where
I
was your
had
tumor?
same as yours, C1, C2 intramedullary spinal cord tumor. So
Yeah.
high up there, just like yours. Yeah, so I was at work one day. I work at a hospital and I do CAT scan. And I had neck pain that lingered from a car accident that wasn't too serious, but I did like chiropractic stuff and I did physical therapy for about a year and it still lingered. So I was at work and on my lunch break, I got my MRI done just to see what the neck pain was. And yeah, 9/27, that was the day that they found this thing. And yeah, so it's been a wild ride since then, to say the least.
Let me ask you quick before you tell us what happened next. Because you work in CT and in imaging, had you ever heard of a spinal cord tumor before?
On the outside, but not on the
Outside of
inside.
the cord. Yeah,
And
yeah, not inside
typically
the
these
cord.
are, I mean, they're rare to begin with, but these are followed mostly in MRI. But I would say since my diagnosis, I've kept an eye out for it. And I saw one come across my table in the 4.5 years. And we scan, I mean, thousands of people. And so I've only seen one ependymoma on my CT table. But again, they're also followed in MRI too. So, but even my colleagues in MRI, they still were like, they really saw this thing either. So
Yeah,
kind of,
even in a large hospital system, it just speaks to how rare these things are. So
yeah.
tell us what happened after you got diagnosed. What was the next months
Found it,
and years
and
like?
I sat down with my chief of my department in neurology, and he sat down and was just like, "We don't know what this is. It's super rare. We think it's this, and it's not in a good spot." The word inoperable was kind of thrown around too, and so that first few months, I didn't really know what it was besides that it was a tumor in a really, really unlucky spot. And then I did as much research as I could. I came across your book and and then read a bunch of different stories that I could find, but it was just kind of slim pickings too. But I did
How
order
many
your book right away.
neurosurgeons did you consult with? Do you remember?
So we're not gonna. I guess we're not gonna really use hospital names on this thing right now. But the hospital that I worked at is pretty top-notch facility here in Boston. But so as soon as I found out, they took good care of me there. I saw the best surgeon in my hospital within 2 days. He said this. He said the same thing. He was like, "We don't want to touch this thing. We don't really deal with them, but there are certain places that specialize in this kind of thing." So he recommended uh, just to basically watch it, but also to find a doctor that has experience with these things because he, flat out told me that this is not really a fun place to be poking around.
Yeah.
So I had an issue with my insurance. Found it in September. The open window for me to change my insurance plan would happen to be in November, which is good. So I put in for that, but that didn't kick in until January. So for about 4 or 5 months, I couldn't see a specialist until January 1st. So about 4 months later. So it was rough. It was, I mean, it was a lot of unknowns. And like I said, I ordered your book right away. That came and I read that and I felt really good about reading a success story, but still didn't get to see a doctor until pretty much 4 months after.
How long was it between diagnosis and surgery? Because you have had surgery.
Yeah, I got it done. I wrote it down. Hold up. So 9/27/18, and I had my surgery on 5/18/22. So 3 years and 7 months.
How did
Yeah.
your symptoms change in that time?
Initially, when they found it, they sat me down, like, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I feel fine," And then I said, "Well, the neck pain I get, I thought was from the accident." It wasn't terrible. It just came at night a lot of times, and but I felt pretty good. Um, and then I would say about after a year, started getting my hands would get numb a little bit. They would burn at night. Mostly at night, the things would get worse. And then also the stress of having this thing too, plays a lot of tricks on you. But it wasn't like I found out on 9/27 and then, you know, the next month I started getting all these symptoms. I was stressed out about it, but I still felt physically well. And about a year into it, started getting, more neck pain, and then the hands were kind of an issue. Yeah, they burned at night. Um, uh, Typically, that was pretty much the major thing was my hands were burning at night, and that would freak me out too because I would look up symptoms online and I was like, that's pretty much what this is, and how worse can this get? So
So a lot of people ask me when I talk to folks, how did you make the decision about having surgery? Can you speak to that a little bit?
yeah, so I I got to see my doctor, my surgeon, in January after I found out, and I wanted it out right away. I was like, let's take this thing out. But he was like, no, that's not what we do. We're gonna watch this thing and watch and wait. So that wasn't. I didn't really like sitting in that space. Um, I learned to get better at it. The first 2 years was bad. It went emotionally and mentally. I went downhill just worrying about this damn thing. And then I started to kind of get used to the idea of having it and learning to cope with it and live with it and with the unknowns, and started to be able to kind of carry it along with me. So my surgeon didn't want to do anything unless my symptoms got worse, like balance, bladder issues, severe pain if it came and didn't go away, and also imaging. He wanted to, if the imaging stayed the same, and my symptoms stayed the same, he wanted to just sit and watch and wait. Um, but it wasn't until 4/11/22, so basically 3 years, 7 months, that MRI showed change in the inflammation around the tumor. And so, um, yeah, so once the inflammation started to spread down the spinal cord, he was like, all right, this is going to get worse, and you're young, so let's just try to go in and now take it out.
Did your symptoms change with that inflammation? Did you
Yeah,
feel
it
that it
did.
got worse?
The pain started. So, like I said, I got better with dealing with it. So I started to run again, and I started to kind of be more active a little bit. And then the pain typically was at night, but what started to happen was it was in the daytime too as well. So I would have to take an ibuprofen in the daytime, not every day, but most days, and then also at night. So I noticed the pain was getting worse. It wasn't terrible, but it was annoying. Um, and then uh, I told my doctor, and then he said, "All right, when's your next scan?" I said, "It's in 2 months." And he said, "All right." And then, sure enough, the inflammation went from roughly, I think, from C1 to C2 was the inflammation. C1 to C3 was the inflammation, and then that went down about C4, C5. Uh, so whatever was going on, something was changing. My body's the way my body was reacting to the lesion was changing. So uh, he said he recommended to do it, and then that's when I said, "All right, let's go." So yeah,
So you had surgery 10 months, 11 months ago? How long ago?
9 months,
9 months.
5/18. So I think about 3 more months would be, I think, what are we now? Yeah, about 9 months. So crazy 9 months too. I mean, as you know, it's it's not fun, but it's definitely doable. So
Tell us what it was like to wake up from surgery.
um, I woke up and so I mean, you go into this thing, and then every single time someone gets diagnosed with this, they don't ever tell you it's they don't tell you what exactly it is. It's differential diagnoses. So they're going to tell you, we think it's this, but it could be that. So for you as well, it's ependymoma we think it is, which is a terrible thing to have, but that's the best case scenario, really, because those tumors tend to have clear boundaries and they can come out somewhat easy. And then also the other thing could be astrocytoma, which is it's another kind of tumor that doesn't come out as easy. It can be meshed into the healthy tissue of the spinal cord. So going into the surgery, you're hoping that you're lucky enough to have the good tumor, but you never know. You can wake up and they can say, hey, we only got a quarter of this thing out. You still have it in you, and now you have all this damage from the surgery, and now we have to figure out what to do with that. So when I woke up, I was in a lot of pain, but I had good news. Two good situations. It was ependymoma, and it was a total resection. And I could wiggle everything. So that was the best case scenario, I think, for me at that
When I
time.
woke up from surgery, I was spinning around in the room. I didn't have any sense of, did you have that experience? I felt like my feet were on the ceiling and I had no proprioception. It was so tricky.
Let me see. No, it was just a lot of pain. Everything felt pretty decent. Just I felt like I was hit by a truck. That's pretty much how it felt. Everything hurt, but everything worked and felt somewhat normal, I guess. Yeah.
And what was PT like? What were the next few days like? And kind of take us through these last 9 months, if you would.
PT was it was in the hospital, inpatient for 5 days, and then so they came to the bedside and they got me on my feet, and that felt strange, um, numb. But I was able to walk with the walker, and after the second day, I was able to kind of put that aside, which was good. Um, so I did that every day for I think two times a day, and then day 5, I was able to push my wheelchair out of the hospital. So instead of being in the wheelchair, I put my stuff on the wheelchair in the wheelchair, and I walked out the hospital. So that part was it was almost the easy part, because then after that you had to do outpatient PT, and yeah, that's when the pain was. It was a rough 3 or 4 months, I would say. Pain was pretty bad for me.
Where was your pain? You're talking about neck pain, surgical
Yeah,
site pain?
yeah. So there's 2 different kinds of pains I mean, for me it was the surgical site, so bone, muscle, spinal cord damage. That's the pain you have, but also then you have the nerve issues. So the nerve stuff was pretty annoying, but I could deal with it. It was more so the surgical site that was tough. Um, that got better. It gets better every month. A lot better now than it was 2 months ago. And so I'm back. I've been back to work since November. So 6 months I was out, back to work, and just trying to, get my uh, daily routine back.
So you and I talk quite often, which is great. And we talk about fatigue a lot. It's something that I have struggled with since the surgery. I just struggle with fatigue and pacing. Can you talk a little bit about how that's worked for you as you returned into the workplace and what the first few months were like compared to the next few months and so on? How are you handling that?
You get used to things. I mean, it's also kind of like it's a new body, it's a new experience. You're not the same as you were before, but things gradually get better, and then you get used to stuff. You do. Um, Sometimes I don't know if I know I'm getting better, but sometimes I don't know if I'm getting better, and I'm just also getting used to just feeling, tight and
Yeah,
pain and
I get
weird
that.
stuff. So I think it's a bit of both. But then also um, having this thing kind of behind me somewhat, I'm better off now than I was prior to the surgery. If that makes any sense too.
Are you
Um,
talking about the mental stress of to
the
have
the
surgery
whole
or not
picture.
have surgery?
Yeah, the whole picture is much better. I'm planning on the future now instead of worrying about the future. It's a much
Mm,
better space for me to be in. Um,
hmm
But yeah, fatigue, you get used to stuff. I mean, I started back doing 4 hour shifts. Then I went to eight. 8 was hard at first, then 8 was easy. Now I'm doing 12s. 12s are hard, but that's been about a month of that. But if I go down to 8 hours, I can do that with no problem. So hopefully I just continue to just, get stronger fatigue and the pain and all that stuff.
What's your follow-up like with the neurosurgeon?
So I just actually had my MR, my 9 month Monday. So that came back clean, which is good.
Woo.
Yeah, always, you're always a little stressed about that. But I was confident going into it too. It wasn't, again, when I had MRIs planned, I used to like, when's my next MRI? And I was living scan to scan for those 3.5 years. You really do. That's how I did. Now I just almost forgot it was coming up, and so much better space. And then I see my surgeon next month, actually this month, on the 15th. So yeah, just follow up with him, and I think he wants to scan me yearly for like he said he could scan me yearly for a lifetime, but I think after 5 years we'll meet again and try to figure that out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've done amazing. I mean, your outcome is spectacular, in my opinion. I know you're back to like you can run and ski and ice skate and back to work. I mean, it's really amazing. And I think it's so hopeful. I mean, I love what you said earlier, where you said it's doable.
It's doable. Yeah, it's doable. I mean, yeah, yeah, you'll be surprised at what you can get used to and get through. Um, yeah, so I think there's two phases to this thing. It's the watch and wait is its own battle, and then you have the surgery, and then you have a new battle, but it's different. You know what you're dealing with at that point, after surgery. And before
Yeah,
you
good
don't know,
point.
you don't know what the hell you're doing. It's a tough space. It's not normal for us to, as living beings, to know to know things are, you know, ticking time bombs are inside of us, and I don't think it's a natural situation to be in. But thank God the technology is better, so these doctors can operate safer on people like us too as well.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think it'll just keep getting better, and that's exciting for the people that come after us. It's a
Yeah,
fairly new surgery to even be
yeah,
done.
yeah.
So I often have the conversation with people after they find a book and contact me, and they sort of ask, what's it like after surgery? And I often say it's something that my neurosurgeon said to me is there's no free lunch here. The surgery is going to fix some things and it's going to break some things. So can you reflect just briefly on like kind of what the surgery fixed and what it broke, and are you happy with the decision that you made, or is it just doing the
Yeah,
best with what you had, or
yeah. I mean, it's either. I mean, once you find out you have this tumor, that's just that's a deficit in itself. So once you find that out, it's no going back. It's not like you can just forget about it. That's a bad day. It is. It's a terrible situation. But then you know, um, it's a tough spot to be in. And then the decision is in your hands, but sometimes it's not. I mean, if you wait long enough, it can be taken from you, and then you're forced to have the surgery. I think a big part of the reason why I kind of was a little more proactive is because I was younger. I was 39 when they found this thing. Typically, I want to say I think it's um, um, I think it was fourth and fifth decade is when they tend to find these things in us. But be 39, and then I just kind of knew that, from the doctors that I work with every day, and then from my surgeon, they kind of said they kind of threw that word out, inevitable, like it's going to eventually. And then my own research I did, I was hearing things from 2 to 3 years from diagnoses, and then um, one of my doctors said 7 years typically is what she sees. So it's kind of like I knew that it was gonna have to happen anyways. So I kind of was a little proactive in doing it. That being said, prior to the surgery, I was worried about, how I was going to navigate this house if I was in a wheelchair. I was worried about who was going to take care of my niece if I can't work anymore. I mean, just, you have to think about the worst case scenarios, and that wasn't fun for me. So now, afterwards, and I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing great actually. So
Great. Yeah.
yeah, so it's not one of those things where you just like you can forget about it and it's just going to go away. It's something that has to be, in my opinion, at my age, it was something that I was gonna have to deal with, and so we dealt with it, as soon as we thought it was needed to do so. So yeah.
Very good. So before we go, I want to ask this to you because I think this is an important question. What How was it helpful for you to be connected to other people who are diagnosed?
It was huge. I mean, I was lost for a while. I read your book, and then I probably should have tried to reach out to you soon as I read the book, but I for some reason I didn't think I could do that. But then after about a couple of years, it was weighing on me, and I jumped on Facebook, and I found you, and then I found a couple other people I could talk to, and it helped a lot just to know how other people that were going through the same thing, how they were feeling, what they were worried about, symptoms. Um, I didn't feel alone with this thing, so it's huge. It was the biggest thing for me at that time, was connecting to other people that had the same, that were going through the same thing. Yeah.
I agree. I'll never forget talking to Carol. I think it was the day before my surgery when she said to me, just remember when you wake up, how you feel is not how you're going to feel forever. And when I woke up, that was just my mantra. I just kept repeating and repeating. And I didn't have much contact before surgery, but it helps me a lot now,
Yeah.
because there's still, I'm 7 years out and I still notice things every day. Something comes up. I'm like, oh, my feet are a little more numb, or oh gosh, I shouldn't have moved my head like that, or something. Something comes up and reminds me that I'm altered by this. And it helps me so, so much to connect. And so I want to thank you dearly, really sincerely for coming on, because I know that this will help other people to feel less alone. And that's the whole reason we're doing it. And
Yeah.
so
That's it. That's it. Thank
thanks,
you for
Merv.
having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Go have a great day. Go ice skate or ski or something.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.